Welcome to another data science deep dive on our technical track. The following presentation is by Alyssa Columbus. Datanaut at NASA, open access information and software has enabled organizations in every industry to launch innovative operations and tools. And this presentation will illustrate how open access data and frameworks in conjunction with open source software has enabled innovation in data science management and governance for various groups and platforms, including OpenNASA.gov. And all attendees of this session will come away with knowledge about how they can use this case studies presented to kickstart your own organization. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa Columbus. I'm a NASA Datanaut and I'm excited to present to you today about how open access information and software launches innovation. I'm going to start by giving a brief introduction to the benefits of open access information and software and how they have led to innovation before moving into a few case studies to show how they have made an impact in the past and how they will continue to make a difference in the future. Open information unleashes innovation, and here's some data to show it. According to a 2008 study by the Standish Group, open source software has saved organizations in every sector about $60 billion every year. And according to 2010 surveys administered by Accenture and Xenos, although 98% of organizations utilize open source software, only 29% of these organizations give back to it. One can imagine the economic benefits that would come with higher participation in the open source software community. The chart on the next slide can help paint a broader picture of the effect of higher participation on innovation. As for open data, this chart on the right illustrates the positive economic impacts of open access data. Open data across 7 sectors, including education, transportation, consumer products, electricity, oil and gas, healthcare, and consumer finance can help form 3 to 5 trillion of economic value annually. According to this chart, the 2 sectors that can contribute the most to this growth are the consumer finance and healthcare sectors, which are also the 2 sectors that have the most valuable and personal data. Along with the monetary benefits displayed in this chart by McKinsey, there are societal and public health benefits that arise from open data. Take Gapminder, for example. It was created by Hans Rosling, and with his TED Talk, Let My Dataset Change Your Mindset, and other publications, Gapminder challenged people's misconceptions about foreign nations with open data and, well, facts. These insights were so valuable and presented so well that Google eventually bought this software. Another notable example, and more recent example, is the Johns Hopkins University's famous global COVID-19 map and resource center, which maps all of the cases of coronavirus from open data in the world and has been one of the most, if not the most, referenced and trusted sources of information about the pandemic worldwide. It has also inspired many others to create applications with this open data to approach this problem from different perspectives and offer new ways of looking at this data. I've included more examples like this one later in the presentation. This is the Gartner Hype Cycle framework applied to innovation. There's hundreds of hype cycles made by Gartner every year, and they all reflect the basic precepts of innovation shown in this one. Innovation follows a typical trajectory like this, and open information is the fuel that drives this cycle of innovation. From the initiation of research and development to the first peak of usage beyond the initial network of early adopters and contributors, to the final plateau of high growth adoption of the innovation, this framework is what a typical open access data or open source software project will follow on its path to creating new innovations that benefit both the organization that produced it and the general public. The following are examples of innovation that have come from the release of different forms of open information, including data, software, and governance frameworks. This paper, published by JAMA, the highly regarded journal of the American Medical Association, outlines how the release of open health and related administrative data in New York enabled the state to improve health outcomes. According to this study, patient safety, emergency response time and outcomes, clinician training, and accountability of healthcare costs have been improved through the use of open data. A few indirect but still noteworthy benefits found from this study included increases in transparency in research that, if continued, would continue to improve these health outcomes. This next study pushed even farther than the previous study in that it focused on federal and state government health data, and not only looks at the effect of releasing open data, but also the effects of engaging with users to train them and encourage them to use this open data. The researchers found that community engagement, contextualizing and documenting data, and working directly with users as much as possible made open government healthcare data programs successful. In a different sector, public libraries, this study looked into what might happen if public libraries in Washington state started to offer or expanded their existing offerings of open data to the public. The researchers found that overall, since the mission of public libraries follows the open data movement closely, communities surrounding public libraries can gain many benefits through the release of public library data through public access and the partnership of data initiatives like these with local governments' open data initiatives. A few of these benefits included improving existing services and building new and innovative services to better serve their surrounding communities. This next example is the Digital Impact Toolkit, which was created by the Digital Civil Society Lab within the Stanford Center for Philanthropy and Civil Society. Although this toolkit was custom-made for civil society organizations and nonprofits, this toolkit is a notable resource that is open for any organization to use to develop their data governance, usage, management, and sharing frameworks. Anyone can contribute their resources and best practices to the toolkit, and the people who maintain the toolkit are even willing to hold consultations to help everyone get the most support they can out of this toolkit. One prime example of a combination of open data and open software that has led to innovation in multiple industries is the Openstreetmap. Openstreetmap is basically an open version of Google Maps that has an impressive user base of over 6 million users and 1.5 million contributors that make 4.5 million map changes per day, according to the Openstreetmap wiki. The data and the software behind Openstreetmap is used in Apple Maps, Uber, Amazon, and many others. And chances are, if you have seen a map application outside of Google Maps, Openstreetmap was the resource behind it. Openstreetmap has become so ubiquitous and valuable that a few other innovative projects have branched off of it, including the Open Infrastructure Map. Since infrastructure data isn't visible on Openstreetmap, open source contributors built this project with the data from Openstreetmap to map infrastructure, including power, telecoms, oil and gas, and water worldwide. At NASA, there are thousands of open data sets and tools to make software. As of the day I took this screenshot of open.nasa.gov, there are 42,946 APIs, 555 code repositories, and 17 APIs that the public can use to build innovative new projects. A small sampling of this data includes the Planetary Data System, an extensive archive of planetary data and celestial phenomena, the Earth Observing System Data and Information System, a trove of NASA's Earth science data, and APIs that can transmit images of the Earth, Mars, and other celestial bodies in our solar system. With these open resources, I've seen developers build applications that track the International Space Station and notify you when it's flying over your location, map and track weather and climate data, build a 3D interactive and animated model of our solar system with special events including eclipses and the Apollo missions, and even send you pictures from the Mars rovers. One particularly notable project is the Astronomy Picture of the Day. Every day, the Astronomy Picture of the Day loads a new picture taken by NASA to this website via the corresponding API. And this is so popular that this website is one of the most visited federal websites overall. The success of this project has inspired the creation of multiple new applications, including the iOS applications listed on the right-hand side of this slide, to utilize the Astronomy Picture of the Day API for public benefit. But how can you build your own project with open NASA data? You can try building it on your own, or you could take advantage of NASA's annual challenge, known as the NASA International Space Apps Challenge. At this worldwide challenge, you can work with a team and with mentors from your local community and from NASA to build innovative new projects or analyze data to find new insights with NASA's open data and software from open.nasa.gov. Although this year's Space Apps Challenge has already passed, next year will be the 10th anniversary of the NASA Space Apps Challenge, and I hope you can participate. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, although a lot has changed, some things have stayed the same. Like how NASA always steps up to the plate to change and better the world in any way that it can. This year, they hosted one more global hackathon than the ones that they usually host, called the NASA Space Apps COVID-19 Challenge, to combat COVID-19 with open data and brilliant technologists from all over the world. Out of this challenge came many tools that can be explored at the link at the bottom of the slide that illustrate how open Earth observation data and the interactions within this data from combined local and global systems perspectives can be used to observe and control the social, economic, and public health ramifications of this virus. A study from healthaffairs.org expands on this theme of using open data to combat the coronavirus by going into detail about two case studies. The first describes, similarly to the way I have earlier in this talk, how the Johns Hopkins COVID-19 dashboard has utilized open data to make available and communicate the extent of the pandemic and its risk to everyone worldwide, and encourage others to use this data to improve our understanding of the virus and how we can defeat it. The second case study describes how open government data has been used in South Korea and Taiwan to build applications that notify people where infected people have recently been, if they are in a close vicinity to one of these areas of higher risk, where they can find masks, and when to avoid peak shopping times, all of which have served to decrease the transmission and risk of COVID-19 in their countries, albeit with some privacy concerns. This article then goes on to list challenges, recommendations, and a call to action for the continued release and maintenance of open data despite all of the challenges involved, to save lives and increase trust in institutions that create the open data, and really to benefit all communities, including disadvantaged communities. Which brings us to the last study of my talk. The essence of this study is captured in its title, in that there is a need to establish an open data space, common data space filled with open access information to effectively manage possible future pandemics. The authors argue that with this common open data space, despite its logistical and privacy challenges, could identify outbreaks of diseases and formulate treatment methodologies, equipment, and medications faster than if there were less open data or no open data and collaboration on this front. These advantages would not only save many lives in the future, but also prevent the disruption of future supply chains and economies. Along with the resources I've already shown and detailed in this talk, there are a few more I'd like to leave you with to help you and your organization launch innovation with open access information and open source software. The first resource that I'd recommend is starting an open source project from the Linux Foundation. This helpful guide details why and when it's best for an organization to start an open source project and where to start. The guide concludes with a launch checklist that addresses the marketing, legal, governance, and other important sides to consider before launching an open source project. The second resource I'd recommend is very similar to the first in that it has the same title, Starting an Open Source Project, and overall structure, but it comes from GitHub instead of the Linux Foundation, so it has a slightly different perspective. Final resources I'd recommend are from the Governance Lab, or the GovLab for short, at New York University's Tandon School of Engineering, which studies the interaction of technology and governance. Two newsletters on the left-hand side of this slide, the Data Stewards Network and the Digest, are excellent sources of information related to everything I presented today on open access data, open source software, and their ties to technological innovation and governance. In fact, many of the articles I presented today, I first learned about through these newsletters, so I highly recommend subscribing to them. The right-hand side of the slide is the GovLab's Data for COVID-19, or hashtag Data for COVID-19 initiative, which lists papers, tools, and projects made with open COVID-19 data and invites everyone to contribute their initiatives to build a better future out of this pandemic. Thank you very much for listening to my talk. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank the Data Science Salon organizers for giving me this opportunity to share this information with you. If you have any questions about anything I presented today, please feel free to ask me during the Q&A or contact me via my website, alyssacolumbus.com. Thank you.
That was Alyssa Columbus, Datanaut at NASA, with her presentation on open access data and framework in conjunction with open source software, and how that has enabled innovation in data science, management, and much more. And if you'd like to watch more videos like this one, you can subscribe to the DSS Insider program, where you could see our complete on-demand video repository from a really wide range of topics. And you can subscribe by following the link in the video description below, and also make sure to follow us. Thanks!